Thank you so much for joining this episode number 4, IAMCP episode number 4. We are going to have 10 of these this year. So let's get the introduction out of the way so we can go over the actual podcast. So my name is Fred Babaee. I am hosting this podcast. And I'm partnering chair at IAMCP and IAMCP SoCal, connecting partners together. My business is B2B Sales Accelerator. Basically provide sales, training, coaching, go-to-market strategy for organizations that are looking to grow, scale their revenue. So my partner and I have been in this sort of business for the last 12 years, and that's what we do. We basically provide sales training and coaching and go-to-market strategy. So thank you again, and I'm going to have Jason to introduce himself, and then we'll go to Roman.
Hey, sounds good. I think everybody needs sales training. I wish I could go back through some of that right now.
I know. I wish I had that too. Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you, Fred, for the opportunity to talk to you and everybody here on your podcast. Jason Price is my name, and adoption is my game. I'm CEO of a very small boutique firm called Aston Price, and we are a service integrator with Microsoft, and we focus on, of course, the modern workspace and security. Ding, ding, Roman. And but the last year of our business has been it's been solely devoted to AI. So much work for Copilot Studio, other models of AI as people are trying to figure out exactly how to put this to work inside of their environment. That's been kind of our bread and butter for like the last year, and we could not do it without partners. The partner play is really important to us, so that's why we have this great, rich relationship with Ravanti, headed by Roman.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jason. Roman.
Awesome. Good morning again, gentlemen. And Fred, thank you so much for the opportunity of being here, and the entire IAMCP team. Really appreciate this time and ability to share the partner-to-partner relationship and some success stories. Roman Avanesyan, co-founder and CEO of Ravanti. We are 100% Microsoft-focused system integrator, primarily kind of aligned with what Jason was explaining in terms of the pillars, but around modern work, Microsoft security, and business AI enablement, specifically implementations around Microsoft Copilot. And I'm sure we'll talk more, but prior to launching Ravanti, essentially I've been part of Microsoft Cloud Partner Ecosystem for 17 plus years. So all we do is Microsoft. So very passionate about that, and truly enjoy that, organic relationship that we created throughout years. And obviously, in this context, definitely looking forward to talk more about, the partner-to-partner relationship, specifically working with Jason and his organization. So thank you again for having me here.
Great. Thank you, Roman and Jason. So how'd you guys meet? I mean, everything starts with sort of, how did that start? How'd you guys meet?
If you rewind the clock back to 2014, I had just finished working on the Yahoo Bing global implementation for the Yahoo Bing search network. And I was like, I need something different. And I met with a friend of mine, Michael Higbee, who said you should try out SADA Systems. They're a Microsoft and Google partner in North Hollywood. And so I went down, I checked it out. I'm like, oh my God, they're young, they're vibrant, they have everything going on. They had really thriving Microsoft practice. And guess who ran that practice? A busy man named Roman. And when I started, my boss was like, don't go to Roman with anything. He's really busy. He has lots going on. And he's managing the entire thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I won't bug him. And then there was one point where I hit like some technical barrier or something like that. And so I went to our service desk. I went to like all these people, and then they're like, you know what? You need to talk to Roman. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to talk to Roman. I don't want to take up his time, but I found a moment on his calendar, went over, and he jumped up out of his chair. He was so friendly and willing to help. He resolved that situation, and so for a good chunk of time, I was used to Rahman being the boss, Rahman being the man, having vision and direction and kind of leading the practice as it entered into Microsoft Teams and modern work, just the whole expansion there. And we had this really great relationship that has passed the test over the years through. And you know how when you have a really good friendship and you depart for a while, and then you come back and you see each other again, and it's like no time has passed and you get right into it. That's how it's been with Roman. And I think we're in our fourth manifestation of our relationship right now. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm humbled, and you brought back some great memories. Obviously, it's been definitely a pleasure, right? And as Jason mentioned, back then around 2014, 2015 timeframe and onwards, right? So as I was basically responsible for building the Microsoft practice nationally, and overseeing primarily, I would say, technological side of things back then, right? So a lot of heavy focus on technology and implementations and innovations around new solutions and offerings, etc. And I think very quickly everyone felt that, wait a second, this is becoming much more than just technology, right? This is becoming business transformation. This is becoming more around business objectives. This is becoming more around business use cases, right? How is this going to help your business to transform? There are thousands of partners can do technology implementation. And when we started talking, continue to talk to these clients, and the more we were talking to like kind of like mid to large enterprise organizations, we really felt that need, and that a need for that additional power around uh, business transformation specifically. So similar to what Jason was explaining, SADA systems, I think they shaped us tremendously. I mean, personally, professionally, that organization with their founders, the Safoyan family, I mean, they had tremendous impact to me directly, our folks, our teams, Jason, his counterparts. So I would say we're definitely thankful to that foundation that was put in place. And fast forward, as Jason joined the organization, I was so excited because imagine having this two major pillars marry together in-house, and being able to provide that holistic approach to clients was just tremendous. And I think number one, the most notable thing I would say, Jason brought that energy, right? A tremendous energy that is really important, because I mean, to be honest, IT vertical is serious enough, um, you know, not to have fun, I guess, and you want to make sure that you do things the way that, yes, there's a lot of serious business happening in terms of meeting technology requirements, but also excite people, because at the end of the day, IT projects, as successful as your happiness of your people. So if they're happy with transformation, they do their job better, they're more productive, and that's what Jason brought to the table, right? So definitely there are more stories in terms of the incubation programs we worked on, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, hopefully that addressed your question, Fred.
Wonderful. You brought a good point, Roman. Jason has so much energy. I mean, anywhere he goes, he just he's like he's just a person who takes the party to a next level, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Crack is a heck of a drug.
yeah. So 2014 you met, so almost 11 years now. So we are all IAMCP members. And were you guys a member then? And how did IAMCP sort of was a factor in getting you guys connected?
You know, IAMCP, I think it reconnected us in this new relationship. So before at SADA, I reported to Roman, and then SADA divested its Microsoft, sold its Microsoft practice off to Core BTS. And so for 2 years, I continued to report up to Roman in this new company. And then I think our entire office, after a bunch of mergers and acquisitions, kind of fragmented and went all these different ways. And a bunch of people went to Microsoft, and a couple of people went to large firms, and some of the big ones downtown LA. And I, at the time, moved off to start a new venture with a partner. And for 3 years, I was running that. And so when Raman kind of hung on to Core for a little while, but when he moved out into there, I met with him and we talked. And I'm like, Raman, you've got to at least consider starting your own business, because here's the advantages. So don't close it all off. Consider it as an option. And lo and behold, what did he do? Couple months later, boom, Ravanti came along. And so our firm was partnering with Ravanti at the time. And we would bring each other in when we had specific needs. So when our firm had no engineers, we would pull Ravanti in to do our engineering for modern work projects. And when he needed the business engagement, he would pull us in for projects. So we were doing Teams and SharePoint build outs, and a lot in healthcare together. And IAMCP was something that I had joined. And so I was like, hey, Roman, you got to get in on this action. This is really good. And at the time, I wasn't even that deeply involved with IAMCP. I joined in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic, and no, we weren't even meeting in person. Brian, you might remember that. And so it was all virtual. And I I kind of stuck in this virtual space, but then my New Year's resolution in January 2024 was to get out from under my rock and get out and go meet people. And once I did, I found a lot more a lot my relationships with those that people I knew and were acquainted with deepened, and I started building additional partnerships through the IAMCP SoCal network, and it already started to return its investment. And I'm like, I'm so glad I got out. And Raman, I think, has had a different path. And when I found him involved with the IAMCP, we were one of the first things he did was like, hey, why don't you come down and do training for our sales team? Come to our all hands meeting and enable us on what your particular solutions were. And that was the first time a partner had asked me to do that instead of the reverse. And so that helped educate them on exactly what offerings we have. And from there, I think our relationship took off. I don't know, Roman, if you want to kind of comment on that.
That's yeah, you explained it very well, and yeah, I think really, kind of going through that journey, right? So we launched Ravanti in 2022, and that's exactly the time when I joined IMCP. Based on what Jason explained, right? So the primary goal was, again, we're all about Microsoft and very excited about any possible opportunities and channels and avenues where we can extend our reach and develop new partner-to-partner relationships, right? And really look at it kind of bi-directionally, right? What is the value that we can bring to the table, but also what are the areas that we could collaborate, right? And provide, again, our motto says a lot in terms of that holistic approach, right? So, I mean, even before launching Ravanti, Jason, if you remember, we were talking about, like, I gave you some, preliminary info, like, hey, we're going to launch and I'm going to put your firm as the go-to adoption and change management. So that's how serious we were about ACM and, considering the change management being the important pillar of our Microsoft services. So, and speaking of IMCP, us being system integrator with a lot of history around managed services, I think it was also exciting for me to see who is actually part of, IMCP community, and like really be able to understand, okay, how the times actually changed, honestly, because being in this dynamic era of technological advancements with Microsoft, I always wanted to see, how can we continue to differentiate ourselves? And you may assume, right? I mean, Ravanti and Aston Price being relatively smaller organizations, it is actually a very important for us to be able to differentiate, right? Because of such tremendous congestion in the partner ecosystem, and more and more partners actually doing Microsoft services, you always want to innovate. Being rather smaller, you always want to innovate. So I think that was definitely important for us. And I mean, speaking from relationship, it really reconnected us. And throughout years, I think we've, as Jason mentioned at the beginning, we've gone through so much together that I think at this point we have such degree of, mutual bidirectional trust from P2P standpoint. And I would probably say what's notable is we speak the same language, right? So it's like he doesn't need to explain to us like why adoption and change management is important, or we don't have to explain to him like why security is important for you to take into account, right? So that's, I think, been very tremendous in terms of that mutual success. So
Great. I mean, perfectly said, right? Is the value you deliver to the customer, which is at the end of the day, how did they take the value you brought in as a partner together, and how it was sort of delivered to the customer, and how satisfied the customer was, which
absolutely.
makes it so much of a value that you two as partner have put together in order to deliver to the customer. And as you know, there's always challenges in partnering in delivering services to the client. What was some of the challenges and opportunities that you faced during this partnership together, delivering that value to the customer?
There's always everything is great and let's deepen everything up at top, but we all know that the devil is in the details. So it's really figuring out the mechanics of the relationship. How exactly do I enter into agreement with you? How exactly do I operate with you? How do I report? How do I bill you? It's like we had to figure out all of these things and the details of that on the back end. And then there was this front end of this co-sell motion where Roman was taking our service offerings and he crafted his offerings with ours at the core of it, putting all the engineering and security and customization around the outside of that so that we could. So if you go to his site, it's like our stuff is embedded. And so that didn't come right off the bat. That was stuff that had to take time. We had to go through iterations to make that right. And that requires a great degree of A, patience, and B, the ability to adapt around what your partner needs and how your partner works. So getting to understand the details of that was I think the biggest hurdle to get over, and it took months, and sometimes it's even not perfect, and we have to kind of adjust and fine tune. We'll get on a call and be like, "Hey, how are we gonna work out this payment schedule around Microsoft invoices and the like?" And we have to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, obviously, at the end of the day, it's about making it workable, right, mutually. So I think if you're talking about true partner-to-partner relationship, moreover for ourselves and me personally, it's always been important to make sure that, at the end of the day, if we have, I mean, in this capacity, it's a partner-to-partner relationship, but majority of the time, Jason will be basically under Ravanti umbrella as a subcontractor. So why this is important? Because at the end of the day, this is a more of a team approach, right? When we're servicing our clients, the client doesn't care like what's behind the scenes. At the end of the day, if I'm signing a contract and agreement with Ravanti, you're pretty much on the hook for everything you said in your agreement. So at the end of the day, it's that not necessarily a challenge, but the objective to address, right? It's the external, the client facing, to make sure that all the requirements from client side are met. But it's also the second part of the equation, making sure that the requirements between Ravanti and Jason are met, right? Or Aston Price are met. So at the end of the day, it's all about mutually kind of acceptable. I would call it happy medium, right? So at the end of the day, we all go with that happy medium that works for everyone. And to kind of expand, because we are, closely working with Microsoft, right? There's a lot of times there is considerations around like Microsoft funding programs, right? And funded projects. So it is important for us to make sure that, those requirements are always met. If we're providing services under our agreement to clients, that structure is properly positioned, the payment structure, et cetera, and we're still, staying true to our promises and to our timelines and what have you. So again, not so much of a challenge. It's just a consideration around, you may be working with someone for years in a different capacity, and then you start building a relationship in different capacity as a partner, right? Partner to partner relationship, and you run your own business. So I think it's just a natural, I would say, kind of progression, right, of that relationship. So
Excellent. So Ravanti was actually front-facing the client, therefore, whoever was in this case, Jason and his team were on the background working with you to deliver that sort of service to the customer. Now, what type of roles did you each play in terms of delivering that sort of value to the customer or
sure,
service to the customer?
Yeah, sure. I can start, and JP, feel free to expand. But
Sure.
yeah. So from my like direct standpoint, like my role typically working with clients, I would be considered as call it like executive sponsor, but in a lot of projects, I would be directly involved as well to oversee, overall success of the project. Right. I can't stress enough how sensitive I am about the ultimate success of the project for our clients. I mean, may sound cliche that everyone cares about success, right? But Ravanti's mantra, and it's in our DNA, we would always go above and beyond to make sure that client is happy with services, with their expectations. Their expectations are met. And a lot of times we would position our services even value-added services at no cost to actually help clients to better understand what they're getting into. So from that standpoint, my role and my team typically would basically be responsible for overall success of the project. And as we work with folks like Jason, right? So Jason being responsible for a specific pillar of the deliverable, let's say adoption and change management, in pretty much every project where he's involved, right? He would be the lead on adoption and change management. However, it's not like he operates in silo, right? There is a lot of collaboration between the project team members, because at the end of the day, the way we deliver projects to our clients, it's not like adoption and change management is afterthought. It's not like we delivered the project and then we bring in ACM lead to say, okay, now it's the time to adopt the technology, right? It's more this parallel work stream alignment and parallel delivery methodology that we built and has been proven throughout all the years of experience that we mutually build, that adoption and change management starts at the beginning of the project and not at the end of the project. So kind of having this roles and responsibilities, and again, going back to my comment, it's like Jason doesn't have to explain us like why ACM is going to be important here versus there. I think that understanding really helps, and internally within our team as well. It's not just me personally, understanding the value of it. It's actually everyone that results in some type of end user impact as part of the project implementation. So having that like mutual understanding, and again, having that mutual trust and knowing the impact of that work, I think helps just naturally understand those roles and responsibilities within the project capacity. So Jason, if you want to expand, please.
Yeah, the word you just said that I think really summarizes it is success. All your engineers and leads are always looking to check the boxes to make sure that things are covered. But our approach, because it's already embedded inside of you, is this complete customer success management. And so we're all working on that. And everything has to be done right in order for the adoption to work. So it's almost like we're all invested in the usage that we should get, that all the users should get out of the tool. And if we've done all of our jobs correctly, that usage is the proof. And I think this has come to light that that Microsoft sees this as well. Sorry, I've got like a Marvel poster on my wall. I just saw it. I'm like, oh, look at that. No, yeah. But Microsoft sees this. I think it's why they are making so many investments into the Copilot dashboard. And now they're bringing the Copilot analytics that were inside of the premium Viva Analytics offering and merging that into what will be the new unified dashboard, so that you can tell a client, yes, this is exactly what you got out of it. Here's in what applications people are using Copilot. Here is the exact number of hours that have been saved by them. Here is the exact financial equivalent of that time. Here are all of the activities that they're conducting. And that only comes from when both his team and my team have done everything correctly. You see it in the proof. And then that becomes, you always want to say, we want a success story, not to give to our client, yes, but also then to tell other prospects on exactly how well we did and how we can work for them. And it all comes out of that data, that rich data, which is the proof of the approach, the model.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I see the Microsoft logo right behind you, Roman. So I have to ask these questions, right? What sort of Microsoft technology played a key role in this sort of partnership and relationship you had and delivered the service to the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of take a step back, I would say, while myself and my entire, Microsoft practice back in the days, we were essentially across Microsoft, entire Microsoft stack, right? So Microsoft back then, like Microsoft Productivity Suite, right? With first, Office 365, then Microsoft 365, and across different industry verticals like education, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, state, local government, et cetera, et cetera. So, we had very good, like, agnostic view across multiple industry verticals, but also very broad horizon in terms of the Microsoft technologies we touched, and be it software as a service, as well as Azure platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, enterprise mobility and security. So that really gave us that good, like, expertise and power. And then fast forward, as we launched Ravanti, it was a strategic decision at least for the time being, to specifically focus in technologies like modern work, security, and now, Copilot business AI enablement. And why I emphasize that, because these are probably the most impactful pillars where you deliver those projects in the realm of, let's say, Microsoft 365 digital transformation, or you're implementing things like data security, right? Or you're implementing things like Copilot. Those are the things that actually impact end users directly. So, and to your question of why those technologies basically reconnected us, right? Because at the end of the day, again, you are going to account for all the configurations, obviously, and the mechanisms and policies that you put in place. But I can't stress enough, like, how many times we start the conversations with reverse engineering, like, what is the objective of the engagement, what is the ultimate vision here, right? What are the business stakeholders looking for, or what are they looking to achieve, right, by doing this? Many times we find ourselves having those conversations first, before even aligning objectives with the ultimate technology implementation, right? And to earlier comment, as Jason was talking about, that business impact, right? Now with a rapid innovation around artificial intelligence, and specifically Microsoft 365 Copilot, us being business owners, we can relate to a lot of executives still not necessarily grasping the full story as it pertains to AI impacting their business specifically, right? What does it mean for me, right? I implemented Copilot, great. There has been this talk track for a very long time where we say, you implement Copilot, you're going to save this much time per day, which equates to this much savings on, salaries, or this is the productivity that you will gain. But a lot of times this conversation is just not enough, right? It's more about what are the specific business scenarios that is actually considered my bread and butter, and therefore, how is AI going to impact us with that, right? So that's where Jason comes in, right? And how we plug into the picture also is the considerations around security, right? So AI conversation these days cannot be decoupled from security anymore. Security is basically pre-work, or the phase that comes before AI adoption, right? So that's why it's important to kind of look at it more of a journey, more of a transformation journey. And that's why those technologies essentially kind of reconnected us, and we saw a very, very good alignment in terms of how we position those scenarios. So Jason, you want to expand?
I can't expand on what you just said because you've summarized it, but I can tell a story. So I remember back in, I think it was 2017, Roman got to go to Microsoft's Ignite. It was either Ignite or Inspire. I'm not sure which one, but he came back. he had a fire lit under him. He's like, JP, I have figured out exactly how we can create our team's offerings around ACM here. And he had documented it. He had like a 3-page outline of exactly what services and products are all part of that mix, and exactly how to do it. And I'm like, oh, you get it. So we put it into practice, and then he came to me again. I don't know, a couple of weeks later. He's like, JP, I've got a Microsoft, and he's one of like the leads for intelligent communications. And I'm having a meeting. Can you join us? I'm like, sure. And then that meeting turned into another meeting, and eventually it was that he dropped off that meeting series, and I was meeting like bi-weekly with this guy, and we were talking about how to incorporate ACM into this team's offering. So that all comes, it grows out of the technology demands, but it is the services follow immediately, and Microsoft recognizes that those can't be decoupled, just like you said. So it's the entire stack. It's everything. And in having those conversations with business, you open up. Yeah, you're coming in to do like one particular implementation, but they throw all their pain on the table. Everything that's a problem to them. And we hear these things, his architects and my team, we see these, we hear them, and we're like, that is another project 9 months from now that we can't get to it now. But it is, so it, even though you start with AI, it leads to security, or you start with modern work and it turns to purview. Like, all these things intersect in the business need.
You know what I actually want to add to that. So that's an interesting time, actually. You remembered back in 2017, 2016, 2017, right? So I always bring this analogy, seeing what's happening now with AI transformations and Copilot adoption, etc. It's almost like what happened with Microsoft Teams back then.
Yeah.
So when we actually had the opportunity to be part of Microsoft incubation programs back then. And what that really means, you have that direct influence in shaping the roadmap and shaping the adoption of different programs and different product initiatives, adoption by partners, right? And how system integrators see that. So that's been very tremendous for us back then to be part of those programs. And when I look at this analogy of Teams transformation, it was almost like everyone got so excited, right? Pretty much every company wanted to be on Microsoft Teams. We had a lot of Skype for Business, traditional, UC companies, wanting to transition their intelligent communications to Teams. But very quickly, we ended up in this scenario where a lot of clients started adopting the product, right? But they came back with questions. How about governance? How about policies? How about security? How about boundaries that we need to put in place? And that's where everyone kind of started taking a step back. We go through proper governance, go through proper security assessment, establishing those policies, and again, working with Jason to actually identify those use cases, because at the end of the day, adoption and change management is not a blanket approach across the entire user population. You have different size of organizations, and you have different departments operate differently, right? So I think that's been tremendous. Just brought back some memories, honestly, when you mentioned that. That's such a dynamic time we were going through. So if I'm not mistaken, that's actually resulted of us getting Partner of the Year in Intelligent
Communications. Yep.
Wow. Congratulations. Wow.
Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
So Fred, I think you begin to see that when two partners can understand each other's business and are all focused on customer success, that you can yield things out that are magnified. You can find things outside of just this normal striation of like, here's our we're going to market, here's our product, we're going into projects, all of that. You uncover additional opportunities to ingrain with each other. And that's why I've always looked at Roman as, we talk about the IPP in IAMCP, the ideal partner profile. And I'm like, it's Ravanti. So like, I don't measure everybody against Ravanti. I use Ravanti as the trophy of growing them up to that relationship.
And it makes the perfect sense what you just said, Jason. Being able to look at these challenges. There are going to be challenges when you're delivering services to a customer as a partner, and being able to solve those and deliver it, even if it's going to cost you extra money, right? In order to deliver the same value, the same cost that you had proposed to the customer from originally, to deliver that same price, same cost to the customer. Even it costs you more, but you still say, look, I'm going to eat that cost, but I have to deliver that service to a customer to make sure that they are happy.
Yeah,
Right?
I think to your point, sir, not to cut you, but to your point, we find ourselves a lot of times in scenarios where clients actually ask us new questions that we haven't heard before, and not about necessarily product knowledge per se, but more like scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that actually keeps you on your toes to now uncover the new possibilities around your services. And to your point, yes, a lot of times it's not just about nickels and dimes. I mean, it's about long-term goals, like how is this going to help you actually make this maybe scalable, right?
Sure.
To understand, is this possibly even a new offering, right? That may help a lot of other organizations to do better. So I think absolutely important point you mentioned there. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of business we get with our customers through partners is really word of mouth, right? And that has become a major sort of scale, as you mentioned, in terms of delivering the good service. Then they recommend you to someone else. Then you have a new business. So perfectly said. These days we I know that every conversation I have with client, AI has something to do with that sort of conversation, or it comes automatically comes into a conversation. What is AI sort of been factor in your business, in your partnership, or overall? How would you think that AI has affected or improved or things you've done with your businesses?
I think AI is what we've graduated to working on modern work. The business transformation that came from automation that we found in the Power Platform, in the Teams platform, all of that was a warm-up to what we now see with AI. And you're right, it's in every conversation. I tell, I go out and get a beer somewhere and meet somebody, and I tell them what they do. And they're like, oh yeah, AI. And then they're going off and they will tell you how they're using it, how they're struggling with it. Like it's kind of in everything. And it makes it interesting to be, I don't know everything about AI, but boy, just having expertise in Copilot allows you to have those deeper conversations with them. And everybody's got a need for it. Roman, you probably hear the same.
Absolutely. And I would probably put in even more like finer point there, what you said about graduating, right, to AI. The way I kind of talk about like adoption and change management services specifically for AI these days, I consider everything before AI, I call it traditional ACM. And everything after, Copilot and after AI conversations kind of onwards, I consider it business AI transformation, right? So it's rather non-traditional ACM. There is a lot of foundation of traditional ACM, but there's also the new intricacies that it brings with it. And from our standpoint, from Ravanti standpoint, in terms of how AI impacted us directly as a technology and IT consulting and implementation firm, right? As technologists, we always look for bringing more efficiency to our delivery methodologies, to our frameworks, how we implement specific pieces of technologies. But at the same time, we understand the importance of having clear boundaries in terms of to what extent AI can actually help us. Because even with the power of AI, believe me, my architects will challenge the AI to make sure that it's actually doing the right things or saying the right things.
Mhm.
With that said, I think, and that's going back to the, I always like how one of the Microsoft leaders says, we want to drink our own champagne, right? So that's, as technologists, we want to make sure we see it firsthand because there is nothing more powerful when customer asks you, how do you do this in your organization? And you can confidently say and provide some, say you are actually doing it and provide some real life use cases. And why not actually do a demo to show the clients how you actually do it for your own organization? It's almost like if you're not a true believer and you have your reservations, I don't think you can successfully help your clients to properly adopt it. It's as simple as it is.
Yeah.
So, and with that, you know, that definitely helps us directly, right? I can give you a very simple use case. I was so curious to prove the point, when we were actually writing up a case study, a customer story for one of our customers. And we had this multiple interviews, we had the script, recorded notes from video conversations. So it was like 7 pieces of data to connect, right? And I reached out to our marketing, as they're adopting AI, but still, marketing has their understanding of, how to approach things. And I said, how long is this going to take? They're like, well, we'll need some, maybe like 4 hours, to bring it all together, analyze it, etc. And, I said, let's try something. And I said, give me 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes, I came back with a full draft write-up of customer story, thanks to Copilot, right? To be able to bring all that data. This is just a simple use case, right? An example of how it directly can impact your scenarios, but also impacting the client's conversations. I think there is interesting observation, which is important for, folks that are heavily focusing on technology. AI became this catalyst around security. It really became the catalyst around scenarios for data protection, data hygiene, data security considerations, because the observations throughout years have been that organizations continued to build this tremendous um, amount of data sets, continue to bring new data and new categories of data. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations didn't want to touch it in terms of properly classifying it, properly categorizing it, because let's be honest, it is somewhat a heavy lift if you don't know how to approach it properly or you don't have the trusted partner working with you to guide you through that process. So that's an interesting observation that how AI conversations and AI transformation actually impacting other areas of the business.
Yeah.
And obviously, in terms of the return on investments, I think we kind of touched on it in terms of productivity, increased efficiency for customers. That's kind of given, right? That's the byproduct of adopting AI. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really removing human out of this. The human actually make these things make your job a lot easier here with using AI faster, getting right to the. I had to do a presentation yesterday, and if it was 10 years ago, it probably would have taken me, I don't know, half a day to do it, and it only took with with Copilot 20, less than 20 minutes to get it done. So it's really helping.
Well, you can't even know if I'm real right now. Maybe I'm not real.
That's right.
I'm poking you. Yeah. You feel real.
Yeah. You guys have been an IAMCP member longer than I have. I know in the short time, I think I joined 2023, and I've really taken advantage. I mean, it's been a great being a member. And being able to meet people like you, and going to chapter meetings, going to after events meetings. It's just great to meet people and find things that we can do business together. In fact, I've done business together with IMCP members. What valuable The question here is, what valuable sort of what lesson would you give to IMCP members doing business together as partners? What sort of advice would you give to them?
I would say that our relationship is a perfect example of why you should not do everything. If you get in conversation with Microsoft says, what do you guys do? Do not say everything. Specialize, be that niche owner for what services you offer, what differentiates you, as Roman was saying earlier. Because then it allows you to essentially map who would appreciate your services with other IMCP members. So when you create, you probably have more than one IPP, more than one ideal partner, so that you can say, well, for this approach, I would say this is the right way to go. And for a different product, a different need from a customer, that way you can start to kind of create your network around you, your trusted network of the partners you'll turn to when the specific ask comes from you. It is a lot of work. It's impossible to do everything well. So just be that specialized niche.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would say, it's an interesting point that Jason mentioned, and I would probably say, it kind of depends as well, right? When partners consider, either getting into Microsoft ecosystem, or they're already in Microsoft ecosystem and they're trying to, understand like what is their niche. My honest advice, just being again, relatively, I mean, we're 2.5 years old as we launched Ravanti, but being familiar with Microsoft ecosystem, sometimes it may take time for partners to actually understand what are the areas they want to specialize in, right? Because it takes some good, like successful projects under your belt, to make sure that they have that clear understanding, what will be their next step. But absolutely, in terms of, you don't want to be the partner that says, oh, I do modern work, I do Azure, I do Dynamics, I do Power BI, I do ACM. Maybe at some point, I mean, you get there and you became so big that you have like divisions, right? That's kind of different story. But when we talk about small, medium-sized partners, I think that's important. But also what my advice would be, and it's important in partner-to-partner relationships as well, in this era of such dynamic time frame that we live in, and so many changes happening. Number one, try to stay agile in your partner-to-partner relationships, in the way you work with Microsoft. right? So many new things come up every day, right? New announcements, new releases, new programs change, structures change, organizations, do things differently. I mean, if you're a Microsoft partner and you're serious about it, you have to align with Microsoft's strategy.
Yeah.
Simple as it is. I mean, Jason will know what I'm referring to, but anytime there is a important, let's say, Microsoft CSP call where they're announcing something, or there is go-to-market call, right? We are expecting one in July, for example, right? Microsoft go-to-market for FY26. Right after that, we may find ourselves in conversations where we ask ourselves, okay, all these offerings we had past year, are they now applicable with the new strategy? And it's going both ways. It's not just a question for myself or my team, but also how do we align those offerings working with other partners, and things like that. So I would say, yeah, in this day and age, you want to stay agile in
Yeah.
your partner relationships, and it's most beautiful when it goes both ways. It's bi-directional, right?
Sure.
Both parties understand that. So one party can't be rigid and another be agile. It just doesn't,
Right.
doesn't rhyme. So
Yeah. So I guess I know that you guys have had a successful partnership together. Are there any opportunities in the horizon that you could have a new partnership again and work together in the future?
Absolutely. I feel like we're just entering this this world of AI, of the opportunities that are laid out in front of us. This past year, Microsoft challenged its partners to develop centers of excellence around AI, develop a business strategy, develop a technology strategy, develop practice for organization and culture. Like there's 5 pillars to that, and no matter where in the process the customer is, if they're just getting their feet wet or they're past a proof of concept and looking to expand out into the organization and reiterate on the successful use cases they've implemented, there's a need for those 5. So those speak, I think, very loudly, and I expect them to be part of what Microsoft will launch out in their in that GTM meeting that you're talking about on July 22nd. There's also like combinations of products that I think have AI or Copilot at the core of it. Maybe Roman, you could talk to those.
yeah, absolutely, I agree, and definitely a tremendous opportunity with
Mhm.
co nations. Like I mentioned, right? So the foundation around security and marrying the two, right? The business transformation, but also the phases that come before then. I think that continues to be a big area of consideration. And frankly speaking, I mean, we built our own journey in terms of how we approach Copilot transformations. Now, knowing all the pillars that are involved, right? And helping clients to kind of go through that process, go through that journey, because believe me, a lot of times clients are already kind of on that train, but they haven't thought about all these different aspects that later on may become a bigger problem for them. So definitely see that as a big opportunity, right? Expanding those offerings. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm passionate about is also creating this packaged offerings that are easy to digest for
Yeah.
clients, right? So it's not always about this like huge project that clients want to go through. So
Yeah. Last question. I know you both have a lot to do today. And again, I want to really thank you for spending time with me today. But the last question here is, what would you say to businesses considering to renew an IAMCP membership?
I think that an IAMCP membership are gems on the table. There are there are lots of opportunity to partake in, and it all starts with the relationships that you build inside this organization. That's the chrysalis of it. And then you move on to changing around that partner and as he's talking about, creating these kind of like co-mingled products that are easily put out to market. Then from there, you will let the market kind of dictate your direction. So being nimble, being able to adapt to what's coming will tell you what works, what doesn't, and where to invest in later on. But it starts with the relationships that you build here, and working on projects with Roman and the learning committee and Fred. I've referred business to Fred.
Thank you.
To you. Yeah, sure. It's like, I know that these things it's all give and take. And so that thing happens from the strength of the relationships you build in this organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to add to that and everything Jason mentioned, those introductions, right? Partner to partner introductions. I mean, we had a case when one of the members, Fred Cooper, right, introduced me to a technology broker who actually works with other clients, and we started working with them on some already successful projects where they have organizations that need additional help. But also, I think what's notable, the culture of IAMCP is that you not only build these relationships, but also you have the opportunity to be the influencer at the end of the day. You kind of given that opportunity if you enjoy that, right? Kind of on this not volunteer manner or what have you, right? But also naturally understanding like, okay, how can you actually influence and impact the community from your standpoint? So I think that was notable for me to see that members have that opportunity to be the influencer within the community, but also be at the forefront of those announcements, right? The Microsoft announcements, the different type of sessions that IAMCP conducts for their members, right? So, and if there are some folks that haven't seen the value, maybe you wanna think about your approach.
Yeah.
That's also important to account for, because relationships again go both ways, and a lot of times it's a matter of what you can actually give first. What do you bring to the table before expecting something the other way? So I think that's important to account for as well. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to vote for you for the next president of IAMCP SoCal.
Second.
Thank you again. Thank you so much. This will conclude our podcast for today. I appreciate your time. It was great conversation, and we're going to continue seeing you at these events. And again, appreciate for you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jens.
You're welcome. Take care.